The small to medium business space in New Zealand provides billions and billions of dollars in free credit every year, and they are the ones that take that risk. A large part of what creates vulnerability in businesses actually exists in our mindset. They become free banks or charities for the businesses that they support. So I said to him, where would you stand if they went into liquidation? It turns out that business did go into a liquidation process. He was emotional, he was in tears, and he was walking from one side of the building to the other, just not knowing what to do with himself. He was left disempowered and really struggling to find a way out. You wouldn't walk into the supermarket, fill up your grocery cart full of groceries, and then just walk out the door and not expect to pay for it before you leave the building. Likewise, you wouldn't go to the bank and ask for an overdraft or some kind of a business loan without expecting to sign some kind of paperwork and provide some kind of security. Yet the small to medium business space in New Zealand provides billions and billions of dollars in free credit every year, and they are the ones that take that risk. So I'm regularly speaking with business owners who just want to get up in the morning, get in the van and go and do a hard day's work and then get paid. They generally don't like conflict. So what that means is that they can, without realizing it, become a doormat to their clients. They undermine themselves by thinking maybe they're overcharging, or they're worried about placing a barrier between themselves and a potential project or client relationship. Sometimes it's just about them realizing that, hey, they have earned the right in the marketplace to be more firm with how they provide credit to their clients and to stop being treated like a doormat. So back in 2020, I was called into a worksite where there was a really devastating situation unfolding. What had happened is that a business had been working on a large factory build and they hadn't been paid. I walked in to kind of find out what they had in place. The first thing I said was, let's have a look at your contracts. Let's find out what you've agreed to, because their assumption had been that because they were dealing with the big boys, that they just needed to sort it out. So there was literally a frantic dig around through computers and drawers to find out what agreement they had signed. It turned out that there was no agreement. They simply had a purchase order, and they'd assumed that because they had a purchase order that everything was going to be okay. They also assumed because they were big companies that they were working with, again, that they just need to sort it out amongst themselves and that everything was going to be okay. So I said to him, where would you stand if they went into liquidation? It turns out that business did go into a liquidation process. And then within 2 to 4 weeks, COVID hit. He said it was the worst 6 weeks of his life. When I first walked into that office, he was emotional, he was in tears, and he was walking from one side of the building to the other, just not knowing what to do with himself. What we managed to do was to start again with some of his structures and processes. We put some really robust terms of trade in place. We gave him some security documents, meaning that if this were to ever happen in the future, he would be in a far better position to resolve that. What he also ultimately did was have a relationship with the end client, because the problem hadn't been in his relationship with his end client or with the workmanship that he had done. The problem was that he was subcontracted to the head contractor, and the head contractor was in trouble, and he was left disempowered and really struggling to find a way out. Years later, he has a direct relationship with as a provider for the end client. He was able to keep his business going. He is moving on with his life and has learned some very, very valuable lessons, and now has secured processes in place to enable him to feel a lot more comfortable with taking on this size of project again in the future. So we live in a legacy system in New Zealand, meaning that there are particular systems and structures in place that traditionally hold or could be seen to hold our small to medium businesses to ransom. Historically, we've always run from a 20th of the following month model. What that basically means for our small to medium businesses is they become cash flow, free banks or charities for the businesses that they support, or rather they can become a free bank. That particular process of the 20th of the following month comes from a period of time where we would send an invoice in the post, have a check written out. That check then gets sent back to us, and then we have to physically deposit it to the bank, wait for it to clear until we can consider that that invoice has been paid. We live in 2025, in a year where you can get money across the world overnight. So there really is no longer an excuse for people always leaning into the 20th the following month. There are going to be some circumstances in certain industries where that is going to continue to be the norm for a long, long time. For example, the agricultural sector, or when we're working with larger firms. However, that doesn't need to be the default anymore. And what it also means for businesses is they can start transforming the way they think about how they get paid. So looking for ways to reduce the risk to themselves. So asking for a bigger deposit up front to cover the cost of materials, getting more frequent progress payments, invoicing faster, and making that invoice due faster. A large part of what creates vulnerability in businesses actually exists in our mindset and our thinking about things in the way it is and the way that it always should be. People, I believe, sometimes feel that that's just business, and if you want to be in business, you've got to take the hits. However, if they simply back themselves, they know that they offer a really amazing service, they've got years of great reputation, there's no reason why they can't start to make simple tweaks. Look for those opportunities where they can charge up front. Look for those opportunities where they can get those deposits, invoice faster, and move away from the 20th of the following month being the automatic. What I've seen in this last year is that those businesses who have made that change for themselves, away from automatically having 20th of the following month into more of a 7 or 14-day invoice, is that they have continued to grow and stay stable in an economy where others around them, their peers in their industry, are struggling to keep the doors open and keep their staff maintained. So a really great starting place is to find their way to my website. So in my website, they're going to find a bunch of great resources that are free. There's a checklist that they can download, gives them some key thinking points for their business and some things for them to self-reflect on. There's also a guide for business owners around how to start making some simple changes in their business. These changes don't cost anything to business other than changes of mindset and changes of habit. Another way that people can work with me is to book in a strategy session where I can sit with you and your business either in person or online and start to navigate through where you're stuck or you could potentially get stuck in the future.